I know him. He's a 3-year-old. Yeah, he's got a 1-inch drop. I know him. I haven't had very many pictures of him. We came in there after Misfit, and he showed up tonight. You know, there was one particular night that he didn't want to have anything to do with him, and he turned and kind of went back the other way.
DT and Misfit squared off in the field, and Misfit won. And I was kind of shocked because due to earlier in the year, I watched DT run Misfit out of the field, so I thought DT was the boss of the area, but that's clearly not the case anymore.
Early October bucks are normally ghosts. Targets that were so daylight active in early September have become increasingly nocturnal. Our trail cameras tell the story. Every week the bucks show up less and less, causing us to wonder if they have all died from EHD. Some have, unfortunately, but most are still there, hanging back in the timber, eating acorns, and moving after dark. Only a passing cold front has the power to shake things up like a cheap snow globe. We watch the forecast like kids watching out the window for the ice cream truck. The right flavor will not only make our day, it might even make our entire season. The first 2 weeks of October have been an awesome gift. 2 major cold fronts. As the first one passes through on October 4th, pro staffer Justin Luebrecht of northern Missouri heads in to hunt one of his top targets.
It's October the 4th, and Mitch and I are looking to get into a tree tonight as we had a major cold front move through the area yesterday where the temperatures dropped about 20 degrees. I was hoping to hunt the east side of the farm in this box stand double set where we've been getting a lot of pictures of that 6.5-year-old buck we call DT, but with a northeasterly wind, I feel like that's too much of a gamble this early on in the year. So we're gonna go on a hunch and hunt the west side of the farm here after that wishbone buck, where he generally shows up the latter part of September and the early part of October, where last year and the years in the past we've been getting a lot of daylight pictures of him running this field edge right here. So with a northeasterly wind, it's going to make his set bulletproof, where the deer generally feed out of this sanctuary into the double crop beans. So with that being said, we're going to gather up our stuff and head to the farm.
Well, it's October the 4th. Mitch and I are set up on the west side of the farm, about 150 yards down from where I shot Misfit, overlooking this big and beastie plot and a double crop bean field. We're back in here after that wishbone buck. He's a 5.5, 6.5-year-old deer that Tyler walked late season back on the big food plot. I know it had to be tough on him, but me and him both agreed if that deer made it past rifle season that he could turn into something special maybe this year. So he hadn't showed up on camera. He generally shows up later part of September, early October, and we got the perfect conditions for him to show up tonight. We had a cold front move in here yesterday, and deer generally, move better on that second day. So we've got a deer out there on the field already, so we're gonna settle in here and see what tonight brings us. Turnips now. The first 8's in the turnips. Shot DT. I can't believe it. There was no way in heck I ever thought that deer would show up on this side of the farm. We've been picking him up on the east side of the farm all year. I think I put a good hit on him, but I don't know. We're gonna have to review the footage, but I'm in shock. I never thought I'd have seen that deer over here. The day after the front, I tell you, I live and die by it. You've got to be in the stand the day after a cold front.
Well, we just got back out here where we stopped earlier, where we tracked him about 150 yards to the wood line here. Went back and reviewed the footage. It looks like I've hit the off shoulder. So we're gonna ease our way in here and see what happens here.
Dempsey's talking about it.
There he is. Wow. Tell you what, we didn't go, I don't know, 15 yards and here he was. We should have just kept going earlier. I'm still shocked. I just can't believe this here. I never in a million years thought that this deer would have showed up on this side of the farm. All year he's been on the east side. We just came in here mainly after that wishbone buck. This is his area where he likes to show up late September and early October. And when I looked up over there, I know Mitch thought I was joking with him whenever I said it's DT, because he was about as shocked as I was. Well, as y'all could tell, we had a pretty eventful evening last night. We had a major cold front move through the area here on Thursday, and on Friday they were calling for a northeasterly wind, which was going to put us on the west side of the farm to go after that wishbone buck that we haven't had any pictures of yet. He generally shows up on the later part of September, early part of October, and to say I was shocked when this guy hit the field is an understatement. When I looked at Mitch and said it was him, he's like, there's no way, because we haven't had any pictures of this guy on this side of the farm yet this year. He read the script as he come across that bean field. He didn't go 150 yards and piled up in the sanctuary. If you guys can remember, this story all started 2 years ago on the north side of the sanctuary, where this guy battled it out with the buck I harvested last year. Fast forward into 2018, where Tyler had a couple encounters with him, and then on my first late season hunt of the year, I elected to pass him, being as I was in there after another buck. And thank God I did, because it's allowed me to be sitting behind this 6.5-year-old buck we call DT. And as you all could tell tonight, he was kind of a bully buck as he was pushing them other bucks around in the field. And as Wishbone should be showing up any day now, this is going to allow Tyler to continue his quest for him. Thanks for tuning in to Midwest Whitetail.
During that same time, Jared Mills, hunting 100 miles to the north in eastern Iowa, is chasing a giant. Jared promised his neighbor that he wouldn't show any photos of the buck until one of them tagged it, so we are forced to use our imagination. I am choosing to imagine a buck that looks like a 400 class bull elk, but maybe I'm being too optimistic.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's... I can shoot for sure. I heard a deer cough about within 20 yards over in the CRP. And there's these two tiny little willows that I'm sitting in. I can't see the deer, but I got up here and realized it's actually pretty comfortable and I can shoot just fine. I'm like not even 5 feet off the ground, but there's enough cover. I hope there's enough cover.
Man, what a night. That's if every hunt for this deer is gonna be that intense, when you're hunting like that, and you think you're close, but at any time a deer like that could step out. I don't know how much we captured on camera, but I was up in the tree, Grant was on the ground, and I looked out. Well, first of all, we heard some sparring pretty close, within probably 40 yards of us. And in my head, I was thinking, that is him. I mean, the mass, you could hear just the heaviness of horns hitting.
It's October 11th, and Grant and I are settled in. We're hunting basically the best cold front you could ask for early to mid-October. I think the wind chill temperature is in the 30s right now, so it feels awesome. It finally feels like fall, and I expect the deer to be moving tonight. We're coming in to hunt the big deer tonight. He's been fairly active on the cameras despite less than ideal weather recently. We think he's finally bedding on this property. The last time we had these conditions, a cold front, west wind, cooler weather, he did come down to this little spot.
Still a good night to be out here. The deer movement was good. We just didn't see him. Like I said earlier, I can almost guarantee he was on his feet somewhere. Hopefully on this property, and hopefully he has or will walk by one of our cameras and we can get that information and continue putting the pieces together on this deer.
We were very close to finding out, as Jared was in the game on this deer during 2 hunts, one on each of the 2 passing fronts. Like Jared, Drake Lamb has permission on several farms, and he also rolled the dice and went in after his top buck as the second cold front passed.
I don't know, I'm just super nervous to be in here. I keep looking at the trail cam pictures of him, and I mean, he was less than 500 yards away 2 nights ago, so it's awesome to see he's moving in daylight. And it's awesome to see he's worked his way to this side of the farm, because I haven't had pictures of him at all on the middle of the south side of the farm. And right now we're on the south side, so playing it safe, but I mean, you never know, he could show up in here. This is the only green food plot anywhere on this farm outside the middle plot, kind of where I had pictures of him on that scrape. So I don't know, fingers crossed we're gonna tuck in and get quiet, and I don't know, who knows, maybe that big bull will show up. Been real slow. I was expecting to see, quite a few deer tonight, but I don't know, a lot can change in 45 minutes, so maybe be back here within the next week or 2. Gonna run some cameras and try to figure out if I can narrow down that pattern on that buck. So I'm gonna sit tight for the last half hour. Hopefully something comes out.
Though Drake didn't see the buck on this hunt, he did check his trail camera to find that the deer had started to show up on a small food plot in the middle of the farm, and he showed up in daylight. Josh Sparks is also hunting in Iowa, but he has mostly been hunting public land for the past 2 seasons. Last year, Josh tagged a great buck during only his second outing, and as the first cold front rolled through this year, Josh headed back to the same spot, hoping for a repeat performance.
Guys, today is October 4th, and this is the official kickoff to Max and I's 2019 season. We're in a very familiar spot, as I'm sure you guys can tell. This is the same bean field that I harvested my buck last year in the 2018 season. Temperatures are amazing for October 4th. It's mid-50s, pressure's hitting above 30, and we've got a northwest wind, which sets up perfect for this spot.
I'll shoot that deer. See him. See him. Y'all want to talk about an insane way to kick off the year. Oh my gosh, I'm shaking like I just shot him.
As the second cold front sweeps across the Midwest, bringing a 25-degree drop in temperature, Josh heads back to the same area. This time he chooses a slightly more aggressive stand site, one located very near the spot where the buck came out on the first hunt.
Today is the day that big cold front is rolling through Iowa. We've got temps about 25 to 30 degrees colder from yesterday evening. Set up right over that scrape where we're about 15, 20 yards away. So if that buck does step out here, we're gonna have a shot. Feels really good. It's just a matter of if all the cards fall our way. I mean, this is a marginal win for us, great win for him, and I think that's when we're gonna be able to kill him. So the one behind him is pretty dang nice too, just younger.
That looks like him, don't it? Fortunately, we can't hunt tomorrow. Now the trick is getting out of here, without disturbing as much as we can. 2 out of 3 hunts, I saw him twice. It's pretty dang cool.
For my part, I spent the first 2 weeks bouncing around, trying to shoot a few does while getting my blinds and stands in order for the coming season. But I also had another agenda. I was waiting to take a couple of careful shots at a small food plot where a buck I called a bladed 10 was daylight active in late September. I catch 2 good winds, one during each of the passing fronts.
That's what we said. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The handlebar. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. And just had a real nice 4-year-old buck come out. He's a deer that we filmed several times during the summer. And if he survives, he'll be a good target for us next year. The funny thing is, I didn't think he was living anywhere near this area. But it was a good sign to see a 4-year-old buck on the hoof with an hour left of daylight. So we're hoping that bladed 10 does the same thing. He's been showing up, I think, every single evening that I had the camera on this plot. He showed up in daylight.
Though the bladed 10 never showed up, I will continue to hunt him in that area. Those daylight photos suggest that this is his most likely core. The first 2 weeks of October require a good conservative plan. Though the cool days may feel like November, causing us to get ahead of ourselves, this is not November. You can't go for broke and hit your best stands repeatedly now, like you can when the rut's blender keeps things flowing. Instead, you have to be patient, only hunting those spots when the conditions are right, a passing cold front or daylight trail cam photos of a shooter. This is where we find ourselves now, after the passing of the second front. Each of us is talking more about backing off and less about pressing in. Only Josh Sparks plans to keep the pedal down as he races time and potential competition on the public land. Jared will go after the mystery monster whenever the wind is right, and Drake will keep watching his camera photos for a clear pattern on his top buck. I will keep hunting does, still running a few cameras and bouncing around the farm, so I'll be ready to roll when the last week of October finally arrives. Mid-October hunting is like water swirling down a funnel. It starts out wide at first, but as it progresses it becomes increasingly narrow and focused. We are filling the funnel now, but soon we will be dialed in on the bucks we feel are most killable. These stories and more will continue to unfold right here on the weekly series. We appreciate you joining us on this mission. We will see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail, and remember to always dream big.